Kidnappings are making headlines across the country, and that's in the recent weeks. Another 2 kidnapping cases were reported today, with the victims being taken in Fordsburg and in Durban. So why the sudden increase? Well, anti-crime activist Yusuf Abramjee joins me now from Pretoria to talk a little bit more about this issue. Yusuf, good evening. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. Let's just give us an update, please, on the 2 kidnappings today, the ones that we know about, the Fordsburg one and the one in Durban.
Good evening, Tony. A real worrying situation. Most certainly, we are seeing a dramatic increase in the number of kidnappings, not only in Gauteng. We have the high-profile one in Limpopo, in Polokwane, of the Moti siblings last week. This afternoon, at about 2 o'clock, a businessman was taken at gunpoint by 3 or 4 heavily armed men in Fountain Street in Fordsburg. Luckily, that victim was released an hour or so later on. We are now told it could have been a bank following. At about 5 o'clock this afternoon, a businessman from Durban, Salim Tayok, was taken by gunmen in a busy street, I may say, and he's still missing. Let's go back to last weekend, Wednesday, when the 4 Moti brothers, aged between 6 and 15 years old, were taken by at least 7 heavily armed men on the outskirts of Polokwane on their way to school. It's almost a week now, and they are missing. We had a Johannesburg businessman, a builder, and Hussein Isak, age 64. He was taken at gunpoint. He is also still missing. Yeah. And we had a Chinese national also just last week was taken. There were a number of other smaller kidnappings. So, Tony, most certainly we are seeing an increase, a very worrying situation, to the extent that I now will say that the time has now come for President Cyril Ramaphosa to personally intervene and make sure that the law enforcement agencies bring an end, because the situation is very worrying.
So, Yusuf, is there a particular modus operandi that these criminals use, and do they have a particular, they're targeting a particular type of victim?
Most certainly. So what we have, Tony, is two groupings of kidnappers. The one is highly organized. They have heavy firepower. They have a lot of resources. And now they're even going for softer targets like children. These people come and they take you by surprise, and they would demand millions and millions of rands. Very often the money is, you are ordered to pay the money into a foreign bank account or at an exchange in Dubai. We've seen a number of those big ones where South African businessmen of Indian origin, wealthy businessmen, have been targeted. Then we have the so-called smaller groups, similar to what we seen in Fordsburg today, and also a number of incidents in the Fordsburg, Mayfair, Durban area, even Cape Town, where these people are now trying to make a quick buck. These so-called copycat gangs, the guys going for the quick buck, they'll demand anything from 20,000 rand to 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 rand, sometimes a bit more, and they will try to make a quick buck. You'll then have to go over and hand over the money. The families will have to hand over the money. And the worrying part is, Tony, in some cases, they can even keep their victims up to 6 to 8 months. We know that a wealthy businessman from Cape Town is now missing for over a year and a half. There's no sign of him. An Indian national was taken in Johannesburg last year. He is still missing. And we're also finding that a lot of foreigners are being targeted. Indian nationals, Pakistani nationals, Somalis, and even people from neighboring countries, Tony.
So, Yusuf, one wonders then about crime intelligence. What are the police doing about this scourge that we're witnessing right now?
Very good question. Now, we know that the police have a special kidnapping task team. I believe that they are hopelessly under-resourced. The biggest problem we have in South Africa is poor crime intelligence. We know that the crime intelligence agencies have virtually fallen apart over the years. If crime intelligence were active and they were doing their jobs, these syndicates wouldn't have been getting away with millions and millions of rands. So crime intelligence is a problem. Secondly, I don't want to give the game away, but these criminals try to be one step ahead. They're using technology. They're trying to make their ransom demands. And let me point out, these are purely kidnappings for ransom. They're trying to make their ransom demands using certain apps on their phones, which makes it difficult for police to track. But I'm sure that with the help of the FBI and other international law enforcement agencies, South Africa will be able to crack this particular problem. So I've also been on record as saying, Tony, that there is no doubt in my view that corrupt criminal cops are involved. These people often go and they will say to the victim, we've got a warrant of arrest, they produce a fake warrant, they'll take them in a police car or in a private car and then hand them over to the syndicates that they see. We've seen a number of those incidents, specifically in the Forsberg, Mayfair area of Johannesburg. So real cops are involved. Some have been arrested. Some of them are awaiting trial. And my biggest fear is that these criminal cops are aiding and abetting some of these criminal syndicates. No wonder police are finding it difficult to cope. Just a few days ago, a kingpin, an Egyptian national, appeared in the Joburg court. He's out on bail. And the information is that even criminal cops who are friends with this particular suspect even escorted him to the court in Johannesburg where he appeared. So we have a real worrying situation. I asked the Minister of Police last year when we featured the kidnappings on Crime Watch what has been done, and he admitted that there are a number of cops that are involved. They have to strengthen IPID, etc., but we've seen very little action. And even on the Polokwane one, the Minister was quick to point out at the weekend that police were making progress. But we know that the police are having their hands full and they can't break the backbone of the syndicate. So we're not dealing here, Tony, with one syndicate. Yeah. I think we are dealing here with several syndicates. A lot of them are newly established.
All right, Yusuf Abramjee, thank you so much, anti-crime activist, with some really worrying revelations there when it comes to the scourge of kidnappings that we're seeing in South Africa. Now,